Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Why do I say ladies? I know it's all guys at this point. Welcome back to Tailosive Tech live on YouTube. I know it's a bit of a dry season in tech. That's why I'm asking you guys more questions than you're probably asking me. But I'm kicking off today's live stream with a hypothetical question, which we all know Marngel, of course, is the best at asking. So I've got it queued up right over here. He says, imagine this scenario. Wow. Straight to the point. Period. You lost your MacBook Pro. No. And you need to replace it. But the caveat is that you only have around $300. I can't even buy a pair of headphones. AirPods Max, at least. Only have around $300 to replace it. That leaves you with either cheap Windows laptop. Ugh, gross. Chromebooks, I can't believe you even suggested that, Marngel. Older Intel Macs or used iPad Pros. I can see where this is going based on your previous questions. You're trying to get me to say nice things about the iPad. Or any used iPad, I guess. With this in mind, what device would you get for a YouTube video making machine on a budget? Really interesting hypothetical there that I hope I'm never presented with. Happy to say that thanks to your guys' generosity, I think my budget would be a little over $300. But just to answer the first question from Jackson Smith, who tuned in originally saying, this is interesting, how newer would you go until it's not worth the higher price? Honestly, if we just ignore the part of Marngel's hypothetical about the $300 limit for a second, I would, if I did lose my MacBook Pro, I would basically replace it with the exact same model year. I care about having Apple Silicon. I care about having the bigger display. This M1 Max 16-inch MacBook Pro is basically the cheapest way for me to get Apple Silicon in a larger size MacBook, which has the good battery life. I definitely don't want to go back to Intel if I could at all avoid it. So just to answer Jackson's question, no, I wouldn't even upgrade to an M2 or an M3 because I've seen the performance tests, and at least with my line of work, it would not make a very noticeable difference that it would be worth the price. There's been some depreciation thanks to the newer MacBook Pros coming out that I would be happily buying another 16-inch MacBook Pro with the M1 Max chip or M1 Pro. But if I did lose it, there's a big if in the title. Of course I wouldn't lose it. I would probably lose my child before I lost this MacBook Pro. No, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't do that because I don't have a child. It makes it much harder to lose. But working within the confines of Marngel's hypothetical of $300. Ugh. First of all, Chromebook is out of the question. What could I possibly do with a Chromebook? Honestly, what could I do with a Chromebook that I couldn't do with my iPhone? Honestly, there's way more things my iPhone could do than a Chromebook. Pretty much only thing the Chromebook has going for it is larger screen, not better screen, but larger screen. And keyboard? Physical keyboard? I guess I could probably connect the keyboard to my phone. So, no, not even that, really. This Chromebook's out of the question. Cheap Windows laptop also kind of out of the question because I know any cheap Windows laptop that's like $300 would be probably in the ballpark of very low-powered Intel chip, and then I'd be forced to use DaVinci Resolve or Adobe products, and those aren't going to work on the cheap hardware they put in $300 Windows laptops, so not really an option to me. That leaves us with either a used budget or older iPad Pro or Intel Max. Those are really the only two hypotheticals I would entertain in my mind. Oh, good, Marngel's here. He says, of course, ignoring price, better to replace your Mac with another Apple Silicon Mac, but the price limit makes the hypothetical interesting. You're right. I guess it would be a toss-up. I went online. I did some searching around on eBay. And it would be a toss-up for me between a 2018 iPad Pro, which I have made videos on in the past, by the way. At least I would get USB-C. At least I'd have a A12X chip, which is pretty good if we're comparing it to used $300 Macs, which pretty much all of them still have Intel. The closest I think I could find to a reasonable option, again, it would be cheating a little bit. a little bit on price, but pretty close, would be a used off eBay or Best Buy or some open box policy M1 Mac Mini. I've seen some that get close to $300. I haven't quite found an M1 Mac Mini that's $300 or less, but I have seen some used M1 Mac Minis that are sub $400. So if I could fudge the price a little bit, let's say hypothetically in this scenario I have an Apple Card so I can carry a balance on the credit card or something. I don't know. Restricted to $300 is tricky, but yeah, if I could get an Intel, I could probably find an Intel Mac Mini for under $300, but again, it's not going to be fun. Yes, I would have to plug it in to a TV, and I'd have to provide my own keyboard and mouse and something like that, but Michael Burkhardt says, I bought an M1 Mac Mini with a matching keyboard and mouse for exactly $300. Really? Jeez. He always finds these deals. It's crazy. Let's see. I got into Apple with a real interest with M1, and I can't imagine ever going to an Intel now. No, because at this point, even if Intel surpassed Apple in performance, Apple's not going to switch back to Intel. I don't see that happening anytime in the near future, at least. We'd have to probably be under new ownership, new leadership. Apple would know it would look bad to switch back to Intel after switching away from Intel, so I don't think there's a situation in which they switch back, even if Intel outperforms them. And most of the performance tests I've seen, it's kind of negligible. If there is a performance from an Intel chip, it's usually under very certain requirements and certain situations that it performs better. It's not necessarily better battery life or better efficiency, performance per watt, that kind of thing. I joined Drew and sold off my iPad Pro. All right, he's joining the movement. Thanks, Tyler Forte, for joining me. Yeah, we're 2 months away from iPhone 16 series, but we'll get there. He broke my scenario there. Yeah, I would definitely take. It doesn't necessarily address the question because I don't really have an external monitor right now, but I bet you at a thrift store I could find a real cheap external monitor that technically could plug into the Mac Mini's HDMI cable. So yeah, I'd probably be going M1 Mac Mini if we're just talking about losing the MacBook Pro and then having a $300 budget to work with for the replacement. Randy, you gotta text the group chat as soon as I go live. Been waiting all day. What type of Mac do you recommend for animating a Star Wars fan film on Blender? Oh, is it your first time? I think we've all been there. I'm guessing something with ray tracing. So I don't know much about that, but that would be my guess. Also, my first assumption would be that something that animates a lot of renders on Blender, you'd be better off with a custom build PC than a Mac. I hate saying that, but it's just what I've heard from some of my friends in the render community, that they have much better luck with custom-made PCs. And they render iPhones, you know, they're rendering Apple products, but sometimes you just need raw graphics performance, so you probably wouldn't use a Mac in that situation. Yeah, Burkhardt's backing me up there. You wouldn't use a Mac there. Burkhardt's setting himself up to take over this channel whenever I retire. He's just answering all the questions before I can. You get a far better performance per dollar out of a PC with a good NVIDIA GPU. Yeah, that's what I've heard as well, but I also think that, okay, hypothetically, if he doesn't want a PC, he has to render in Blender on the Mac, probably getting a more recent generation M3 Pro or M3 Max chip would result in the best outcome. That's my uninformed answer, would be my guess there, but please, Apple, it is Olympic season. Do we get new international watch bands again? Apple, did you hear about Midnight HomePod Mini? I'm glad to see that many people liked yesterday's video and many people disliked yesterday's video. That's always the line I'm trying to ride. Right down the middle, ticking off some, pleasing others. It was a nice word salad of comment section where people are like, this is the best thing you've ever posted and this is the worst thing you've ever posted. I'm unsubscribing and this is the best thing I've seen all day. I got everything in between. I love ticking people off. It's just a pleasure of mine. So thank you to everybody who sat through and watched that whole thing. Hummus Yummus. who has the best name ever, says, I personally have seen a $300 M1 Mac Mini with 512 gigs of storage, but in Indiana. I think the Midwest is cheaper than the West. Yeah, I guess I wasn't looking at, like, local marketplace things. I was mainly just looking at things that are available to ship or whatever, but M3 Max would probably be the best option right now. You need the most raw power, obviously, but M3, M4 isn't in an Ultra right now, so M3 Max would be the best bet. Yeah, I don't know what their budget is, but yeah, essentially get as much ray tracing performance as you can. Some unsubscribed, but I ordered 9 Midnight HomePod Minis, says Jeff with a G. I really hope everyone picked up on the sarcasm. Did you see Google just revealed the latest Pixel Fold hardware, Pixel 9 Pro Fold? Oh, is that what they're calling it? I think I saw it, but I couldn't tell if it was real or not. Hold on, I'm scheduling the podcast right now. The Pixel 9 Pro Fold. I would have done this before, but Randy didn't get back to me until 3 minutes after starting the live stream. Yes, I'm throwing the Randy Nexus under the bus. If you think I'm too hard on the iPad, though, I will say you'd probably enjoy Randy's channel a lot more than mine. Let's see. Boom. Okay. Thought Google was August 10th. Yeah, usually they very cleverly release all of the Pixel hardware before the iPhone event so that everybody forgets about the Pixel hardware by the time the iPhone event happens. Marketing 101. Good job, Google. Let's see. It's definitely real. The camera module is the ugliest thing I've seen in my life. Have we not grown up past the age of making fun of camera modules? I feel like Google always... Pixel 9 Pro Full. What a terrible name. I feel like Google always leaks things early on purpose. Introducing... Oh, they posted it. I see. That's the camera bump. Yeah, it's weird, I guess. Two pills on a bump. Yeah, I'm trying to find a rant in me, guys. I really am. I know you want me to rant on the Pixel stuff, but it's just like, everything in the smartphone industry is just meh at all times. Everything's like, yeah, it's not great, but it's not terrible. I don't know. There's just... for the record, I don't like the camera bump on the iPhone either. I never really liked the... I can't... Thank you for the super chat pin. There's just too many things going on at once. Yeah, the visor camera is better. But once again, it is sad to see everybody kind of falling in line with the traditional Apple bump in the top left corner, if you're looking at it from the back. Trying to schedule the next podcast. Pixel had a pretty looking camera bump. Yeah, they did, but I don't think they're changing it on the Pixel, the regular Pixel 9. If you've seen some of the latest photos here. This is what the Pixel 9 and 9 Pro are supposed to look like. And again, it's fine. It's really not that different from the previous generation Pixels, but iPhones have the same problem. They all look the same. So, once again, the foldable is not worth it, and the foldable looks weird. Why did they change the camera bump on the Fold? Beats me. It's a Fold, you know. There's a lot of things you're putting up with. One of the best videos, in my opinion, is Pixelbook Rant and Pixel Slate Rant. I've heard it many a times, but thank you so much for the super chat. Yes, I know that the rants are good, but they're good because there was something to rant about. And I'm constantly looking for bad tech ideas to be rant-worthy enough. Probably the closest we've had to that is like the Rabbit R1 and the Humane AI pin. I feel like I ranted on those, maybe not as angrily as I used to, but yeah, the visor is still very much better. I prefer the Pixel visor, and I stand by my offer, by the way. If Google offered me a Pixel phone, I'm not saying a sponsorship, I'm not saying they'll pay me. Well, they do pay me for YouTube, but I'm saying if not paid me to be a part of Team Pixel, but if they offered me a Pixel, I would switch to it. I would put my eSIM in the Pixel 9 and I would use it for at least a year, maybe more. Sarcastic video or rant better? I don't know. I think it's kind of healthy for YouTubers to try to do new things. Some YouTubers just keep doing the same thing over and over again. Maybe that's better for the algorithm, but at least it's better for my mental health to try to do some new jokes occasionally, try to mix things up a bit. The skits are a relatively new thing in Tailosive tech history. I really only started doing them a couple years ago. A lot of people liked them, so I kept doing them, but I like trying to come up with different skits or more unique skits, or sometimes a video where the whole thing is a skit, you know? Rather than just say, like, I'm gonna rant every single time something is mildly weird. I think it would get old. It's also very painful. I also don't live alone anymore, so I bother other people if I yell too much. Which type of video do I like making more? Depends on the subject. If there's a really, really dumb decision a company made, then I'm not above doing a rant video. I like ranting when there's something rant-worthy, but also if there's something really funny that Apple did or another company did, sometimes the sarcasm can be funnier. So it varies depending on the context. Like Google with the Pixel Slate, it was just so many baffling decisions over and over again. It wasn't one little thing. It wasn't like, oh, the camera bump is weird. It was like, why is the software so bad? Why did you design it this way? Why does it cost that much? Why is it so inferior? There was so many bad things stacked on top of each other that was like, yeah, I just have to get upset about this. But when Apple just rebrands Space Gray to Midnight, I don't think that's a rant-worthy topic. There's nothing really to rant about. But to me, I was imagining the video in my head of like, oh, acting like this is a big deal and acting like this is Tim Cook's greatest achievement. That's kind of funny. So I should do a video sarcastically acting like the HomePod Mini being changed to Midnight is a huge deal. Best kid is the T-Mobile evil internet provider. Yeah, that was funny. Okay, you can ask questions. We don't have to all say just things you like. I know. It's easy to do that. If I lost it. No, I haven't lost it yet. Have I seen the renders of the iPhone 17 with the visor camera? I have not, but I don't think that's going to happen. I'm pretty sure Apple is sticking with their current camera bump design. Apple's probably researched a million different ways to mount the camera bump, and they decided the current one is the most iconic / recognizable way to do it. They haven't changed it yet. They're probably not going to change it anytime soon, but okay, y'all are being too nice. Too nice. Just be honest, and if it becomes a rant, funny and enjoyable. Yeah, exactly. I think that's the one thing that I have tried to stay consistent on, is just, I'm going to say how I feel about things. Sometimes when I see how other channels have, of course, grown and exploded far past the size of my channel, it's like, man, I wish I shared your opinion, because sometimes people are just so gullible that they believe every report and every rumor, and because they believe it and they report on what they believe, I think, their channel performs much, much better. It's like, man, Drew being such a skeptic on things, it doesn't perform all that great. If I just said things I didn't believe, I could probably get way more views, but I just wouldn't feel good about it. So so far, no, I don't miss my Apple Watch. It's kind of refreshing to not have another thing to worry about charging. I actually just yesterday got back from a camping trip, and so many people, it was kind of a big group camping trip. There were a bunch of friends and family and friends that were all camping together, and the number of people that were all trying to find a way to charge their phone and also their Apple Watch was quite humorous, and it was kind of refreshing to be like, yeah, I don't have an Apple Watch to charge. It's fine. Why did you sunset some of your other channels like the gaming one? Oh, it was just accepting that I wasn't good at those things, and I probably never will be, nor do I have the time to get good at those things. So it was actually quite freeing and relaxing to just be like, you know what? These genres of channel are not for me. I'm okay being the tech guy, and that's, you know, you can't get lightning to strike twice. And I got lucky and struck lightning with the tech channel and kind of helped with getting the EV channel off the ground, but haven't really been able to ever get the gaming or movie review channel off the ground. So I just decided, you know what? I'm going to leave that to the guys who are good at it. I'm going to retire those channels because I don't have the time for them, and I'm not good enough at them anyway. So rather than have an old dead channel that looks like it's supposed to be active, I just officially retired them and rebranded them so that you don't see a channel called Tailosive Gaming anymore. It's just, it's done. I talked about the Galaxy Watch Ultra in not my last video, but the video before that one. It seems like a bad way to copy something. They should have... If you're going to copy Apple, you should do it right, and I think they copied Apple in a bad way, personally. But I know, wrong channel, but my brother plans to buy a Model S. How to stop him and convince him to buy the Model 3. Money. That's how. Money. Anyway, there's other tech-related comments here. I hope I answered your question, Marngel. I would basically be tied between M1 Mac Mini and 2018 iPad Pro. Those would be my two choices. Joshua Miller says, I know you're not an AppleCare guy, but I will say my AppleCare Plus for my M1 Touch Bar 2020 MacBook Pro already paid itself off. A $589 repair cost me $0 when I had display failure. Not really a question, but I'm happy for you. And it's true. Just for those who didn't know, I've never purchased AppleCare or AppleCare Plus in my life. And I have yet to come up in a situation where it would have been helpful. Maybe my opinion would change if that type of thing came up with me. Like if I had a display failure on my MacBook, or I dropped my iPhone and it was like, oh man, this is going to cost a lot to replace. I'll be better off just buying AppleCare. I would have been better off if I had AppleCare. If that situation arised, then I would totally be like, okay, maybe on my next Mac or iPhone purchase, I should consider getting AppleCare. But so far, it's never happened. I've just taken good care of my tech. I've never had really a display failure or an SSD failure or a shattered iPhone glass or anything like that. And so far, I've just saved a lot of money by never buying AppleCare, and it's just never really come up. So, let's see. Do I ever miss my Blackmagic? Not really for YouTube content production, especially when you're filming car stuff. I've tried to film car stuff with the Blackmagic, and filming cars with professional cameras is a whole different work of art. You got indoor, outdoor, and you've got more outside lighting and less lighting in your control. Arose, arise, arisen. Thank you, Wyatt. I'm a dropout, so I apologize for my poor English, but the only times I've actually started to wish I had a more professional camera is at my new job with Telo trucks. Sometimes I'm filming stuff, and now that I'm filming it for other people, it's not just representing me, now it's representing a brand. I'm like, now I kind of wish I had a bit more of a professional setup, but back when I sold my camera, I was just making YouTube videos for me, no one else. So at this point, they're fine with the content. They haven't brought up the production quality of it at all. None of them have been saying like, oh, do you have a better camera or a fancy camera you can film with? None of them are asking for it, but I would feel a little bit better now that I've been hired by a brand to represent them. I've thought about like, yeah, if I'm representing someone else, I might want it to look a little bit more professional. I don't know. When you're filming stuff for a company, it does feel a little bit weird to shoot it on your iPhone, but I'm debating like should they pay for it, that way they can keep the camera if they need it or they want to use it for their own purposes, or should I buy it, or should we go halvesies? I don't know. It's not, there's a lot of things we're talking about over at Telo, and that's not high on the priority list, but it has crossed my mind of like, yeah, probably down the road when we're filming the prototypes and the production models and stuff, it probably would be better if we had a designated camera rather than an iPhone. But other than that, no, I haven't really been missing the Blackmagic. For filming YouTube videos, the iPhone is honestly perfect. I really don't think you need a fancier camera if you're just running a YouTube channel. It's way too many people dwell on the camera quality and the resolution and what kind of camera, and in my opinion, don't focus enough on audio, or more importantly, what you are saying and how it's edited. What you're saying and how it's edited, I think, are far, far more valuable than the type of camera you use to record. iPhone cameras are great, and for a lot of YouTube production, it's more than enough. You could probably get by with an iPhone 10 for a lot of use cases. It depends on the channel, of course, but I am not on the public beta. I am still running iOS 17. I was trying to remember which number. But no, I just because I use my phone for so many work-related things now, I'm hesitant to put any beta software on it, but I'm getting by fine. You know, I've seen some videos on iOS 18, of course, and there's some nice quality of life features, but nothing that is really going to make a huge difference to me. There's just a little tweaking. Honestly, it sounds stupid, but the thing I'm most excited for in iOS 18 is something I've been asking for a long, long time. I just want to get rid of the app labels, and they let you do that on iOS 18. I've seen the theme packs with the like dark mode and the colorful icons. Okay, customization is a little bit nifty, but for the most part, it's not really something I'm looking for. I'm kind of fine with my home screen the way it is. There's not a lot I would change. There's not a lot of apps I would put on the bottom of my home screen. Maybe I should. I've had pretty much the same home screen layout since I had an iOS device. Even before I had an iPhone, I had an iPod Touch 4th generation, and I pretty much had this exact same layout of like camera, calendar, photos, mail, clock, maps, weather, calculator, and then messages at the bottom, music down there, YouTube down there. There hasn't been a lot of changes on my home screen, so there's not a lot. Same thing with Control Center. There's really not much I would change. There's a lot of cool things they're adding, but the thing that I'm most excited for is just get rid of the app labels, which is not a big deal. But anyway, Jackie Zoo, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Thank you for the super chat. Should I upgrade to the M4? I have a 13-inch 2017 MacBook Pro going back to college for CS or MIS degree in machine learning and AI. Thanks. Wow, that's awesome that you're still rocking a 13-inch 2017 MacBook Pro. And like I always said, I think you shouldn't upgrade based on what's out. You should upgrade based on how bad your current machine is. So I don't know your situation. Thank you for the super chat. It was entirely unnecessary. Thank you. But if your MacBook Pro is still going strong and still getting the job done, then yeah, of course. I would say wait as long as you can. Obviously, the M4 MacBook Pros aren't out yet, right? My brain has got way too many electric vehicle and tele things on the brain. I'm trying to keep up with all the Apple stuff at the same time. I'm pretty sure, yeah, the M4 is only in the iPad. I knew that. But there's supposed to be an entry model MacBook Pro, kind of like the 14-inch, like $1,600 model, that will be rocking the M4 chip. That'll probably come out around October of this year. If you've got the money for it, I'd say go for it. Yeah, 2017 is quite a bit far back. I would honestly be far more curious, Jackie, what your how your MacBook Pro is aging. Like, how's the keyboard? How's the CPU? How's it holding up? Are you running into issues with it? That kind of thing. That would be my follow-up question. Let's see. Do you find yourself having fridge envy when you visit Mike? Oh, absolutely. Well, my fridge kind of sucks, so I have fridge envy pretty much everywhere I go. But my house is old, and there's not really a water hookup to our fridge, so we still have to fill up from the sink and stuff. So it's a problem. Simply Saurus has been too busy to be watching a ton of YouTube as of late, but wow, 2 years of support. That's very kind of you, Simply Saurus. Thank you. Thank you, Sir Jay, but I don't like unsolicited compliments, so please keep them to yourself. I still wish Apple would let me remove the dock on iPhone. Really? Why? Why do you want to remove the dock? I can't figure out what you would rather have there. Let's see. It lags when I have 2 programs up. Okay, yeah. I would say you're due for an upgrade if you're still on a 2017 MacBook Pro, and if you have 2 programs running, it starts lagging. Yeah, I would say get the M4 when it's out, or better yet, get the M3 when the M4 comes out at a discounted price. You could probably find one in certified refurbished if you can't afford to wait and get a good deal on it. Lord of fridge supremacy. Apple films their events with an iPhone, so Telo shouldn't mind you filming with an iPhone. That's my planned response if anybody asks, like, Drew, why are you filming Telo stuff on an iPhone? I'm just going to say, well, if it's good enough for Apple. The caveat that I would even argue against myself with that argument is Apple does have an incredible marketing team, and they have fantastic lighting systems, rigs. It's not like, Jaws is just whipping out his iPhone and hitting record. They have very fancy recording equipment, very fancy lighting systems, and that's another message that I would echo to YouTubers out there. These days, if you're recording events or YouTube videos or whatever, the lighting has far more to do with the camera quality That's probably not the right way to phrase it. The lighting has a much better impact on the production value than the sensor and the lens do. That's why Apple's able to get away with shooting things on an iPhone, is because they have really, really good lighting and a very, very good marketing team. They're not just whipping out an iPhone and hitting record. They have these really fancy equipments. They've got fancy microphones, and they've got fancy lighting, diffusers, and studio lighting and stuff. Highly recommend M2 Pro 14-inch MacBook Pros on Apple refurbished. Oh yeah, those are getting cheaper, aren't they? Do you notice that when predictive text is turned off on the iPhone, the keyboard is easier to type on? I don't think I've ever tried to text without predictive text, so no, I haven't noticed that. Korean Yoon says, which iPad do you have now? Nothing! I sold it! I'm done. I'm just happy now with my iPhone and my Mac and my AirPods. That's pretty much my whole ecosystem. I guess I still have an Apple TV, and that Apple TV uses a HomePod, but I don't talk to the HomePod. The HomePod has been permanently muted. I don't set voice controls with it. I don't tell it to play music. It's purely just a speaker for the Apple TV. That's its only job. I've tried to sell it several times, but I never got a very compelling offer for it. So I said, at that price, I'll just keep it, whatever. What would you say is your favorite iPhone ever? I predict you will say 12 mini or 10. I've gotten that question a lot over the years, and I've always said I'm not much of a nostalgia guy, so my favorite iPhone is usually the latest one. And then when a new one comes out, I say, well, that's my new favorite. But if you're just trying to get me to say some kind of historical significance, yeah, I guess I would say the iPhone 10 had the most year-over-year changes all at once. It also was kind of coming out right as my channel was getting off the ground, so it kind of, to me, I think of the iPhone 10 as the iPhone that kind of made me into a tech YouTuber. So I have some positive memories and nostalgia around the iPhone 10, but my wife is using the iPhone 10 right now, and it's having a lot of annoying problems, so I'm kind of okay with her. We're kind of on the topic right now of when she should upgrade, because she's having a lot of issues with it, with the reception, and it's kind of slow and laggy. So she wants to upgrade, but she doesn't want to spend very much, like most of us. And I really tried to persuade her. I was really like, honey, please, can you at least upgrade to an iPhone with USB-C so that we can both have USB-C iPhones, and then we don't have to worry about Lightning versus Type-C in the car, or when we're traveling, or at the couch, we have a phone charger, and it's like, oh, you can charge this phone but not this phone. I really tried to persuade her, but she was just not interested. She was like, I don't care, whatever, it's Lightning Type-C, what's the big deal? It's like, I'm used to Lightning, and she charges everything on MagSafe Duo, which is funny because her iPhone 10 doesn't even have MagSafe, but she just likes having the wireless charger. She prefers charging wirelessly. She has a wireless, she actually uses the other, I have two Pixel stands, this one, and she has the other one at her desk at work, so she uses that to charge her phone. So she doesn't really care about Lightning versus Type-C, no matter how much I tried to get her to care. She said no. She's like, I'd rather just buy a cheaper iPhone. And her budget that she doesn't want to exceed is like $300, kind of like Marngel's budget that he pitched to me. So yeah, most likely in the next couple months here, depending on how her iPhone 10 performs. If it starts really shutting down, it might move up a bit, but she's going to hold on to it as long as she can. But her current game plan is to get either an iPhone 12 or a 13. I want her to get a mini iPhone because I love them, but she does not. My wife is part of the movement of, she wants the biggest screen possible, but not more than $300. So most likely we're getting an iPhone 12 or a 13 for her whenever the iPhone 10 kicks the bucket, or at least gets so slow that she doesn't want to use it, at least. So probably the boring old, which I'm not that excited about, because I'm like, just a boring old iPhone 12 or 13. That's not fun. That's not exciting. I can't make content about that, but it's her life. It's her phone. She can decide how she wants to do it. But if you tried to convince her, like, oh, Louise, get a 15 Plus because it has a big screen, which she said she likes, and a big battery, and it has Type-C like Drew wants. Yeah, she's not going to. She doesn't want to spend that much. If you told her it was $600, she'd say, no, that's too much. And you'd be lucky to find a 15 Plus for $600. But yeah, she'll probably get a 12 or a 13 here pretty soon. What iPhone were you most excited to go and pick up? Yeah, that was probably the 10. There was just so much hype leading up to that one. I mean, I was excited for other iPhones as well. But yeah, there was a turnout like no other I've ever seen. I've been to most, in recent years, I've been to most of the iPhone launch events. Like I show up in person at the Apple Store. And there's usually a little bit of a crowd these days. But when the iPhone 10 came out, we got there like 4 hours, I think, before the Apple Store opened, and the line was already out the door. It was already around the block. And I've never been to an Apple event of any kind, Vision Pro, iPad, Mac. I've never been to a Apple launch day of any kind that drew a crowd like the iPhone 10 did. That was just a huge, huge, big day for the iPhone. And I personally don't think we're ever going to have an iPhone launch that major again. I think from here on out, it's just going to be more incremental, small, minor changes. Honestly, even though I don't think it would be a great deal and I probably wouldn't buy one myself, I still think, I've said this before, but I still think Apple should make a folding phone. I think they would make the best folding phone. Google's making one, Samsung's making one, OnePlus made one, I believe. So Apple's pretty much the only major smartphone maker that has yet to make a folding phone. And I know they would buy their displays from Samsung or whoever anyway, but I just think they would probably get the software better than Google or Samsung could. And also, iPhones hold their resale value better than pretty much any Android. Even the cheap iPhones hold their resale value better than Android. So, if there was someone to make a popular $2,000 phone, I think Apple could do it better than Samsung or Google, because Samsung or Google depreciate like... So people feel a lot more comfortable dropping big money on iPhones. So personally, I think that Apple could probably do a folding phone better than anybody else. Even though I wouldn't personally buy it, it would at least shake up the industry a little bit. It would be more exciting than... Ooh, iPhone 16 camera bump is gonna be like this. Now the cameras go up and down instead of diagonal. Ooh, solid state button. You can click the button to take a picture. Wow, that's all we really have to get excited for on the iPhone 16 series. That and AI, which it's all marketing baloney. So, Top Maverick says, I have the original iPhone. It is so cool. Yeah, I have one too. It can't do much, but I do still own one. If Apple made a foldable, then normal iPhone would truly never see multitasking. Yeah, well, that's going to be the case regardless, in my opinion. If we never make a foldable, then we're definitely never going to see true multitasking on the iPhone, because right now, Apple sees the split-screen multitasking as an iPad feature, not an iPhone feature. And I think it's probably going to stay that way. Remember Ben Gate. Oh, yeah. We need to make a folding phone that can fold more than once. I should have specified. If you're buying a new phone, at least have 5G. Yeah, I have similar feelings for my cousin. My cousin, who I kind of feel bad for him, honestly. He's been an Android user since day one. I don't think he's ever owned an iPhone. He's a bit older than me, and he was always the Android guy. He always loved Android, and he always found good deals on Android phones. And I liked being able to say in my podcasts and on these live streams, like, yeah, my cousin uses Android, and we get along great. We talk about tech, and I liked being able to say that whenever people brought up that, oh, Android users get bullied by iPhone users, and you can't use Android because all of your family uses iOS. And I like saying, hey, I have a family member that uses Android, and we just use Facebook Messenger. Or, you know, my father-in-law uses a Galaxy phone, so we use WhatsApp. He lives overseas, so everybody uses WhatsApp because he's not living in the U.S. most of the time. So I'm like, people turn this whole iMessage green bubble thing into a way bigger deal than it really is. If you have a good friend or if you have reasonable family members, then they won't bully you. They'll just use whatever messaging app works best. And my cousin recently texted me a couple days ago that he wants to switch to iOS. Randy would probably be like, yes, we got another one, a convert. Hello, thank goodness. But I'm more like, oh, why do you want to switch to iOS? And he said, well, just everyone in my family uses an iPhone, and I want all the iMessage features, and I want to just be in the ecosystem. And I'm like, oh, did they bully you? I was like, hey, Matt. I don't know if Matt's watching, but I'm like, Matt, hey, why are they pressuring you? I think you should stand by your ecosystem. You know, he's been on Android for so long that it was kind of hard for me to hear that he wanted to switch to iOS. But he said, you know, he doesn't want the latest and greatest iPhone. He just wants something cheap that works and functions. And he was on the fence between he likes big screens like my wife, and he cannot lie. So he was toying between getting an 11 Pro Max and a 12 Pro Max. And I was like, you know, I do really love the 11 Pro Max, but if you're buying a used iPhone, you should probably get one with 5G because they tend to throttle 4G speeds these days. You know, he has good Wi-Fi at home and at work, so maybe he doesn't care so much about 5G. But I was telling him, yeah, I mean, I didn't love the 12 Pro series, but if you're on a budget, you could probably find a pretty cheap 12 Pro Max, and at least then you have 5G to work with. So Green Bubble has a technical reason. It's SMS and not iMessage. That's the reason. Yeah, I know that, but that's not why people are bullying them. They're like, you need an iPhone. But I really wanted him to stay on Android, but I guess he's, you know, his wife is on iOS, and his sister is on iOS, his mother is on iOS, so he just wants the AirDrop and all that stuff. You look so much like my Latin teacher in high school. That's funny because I did teach Latin when I worked at No, I'm kidding. Must be another horrible-looking guy. Thought we were only messaging in green. I'm from Germany. Germany? Isn't WhatsApp popular there too? Hot take, 5G functionality doesn't exist. I get what you're coming from, but my point is they've been throttling the 4G speeds. I've noticed this firsthand. Like, in the exact same space in my house where I used to get certain speeds on a 4G iPhone, because my wife has an iPhone 10, in that exact same space, the speed is like a tenth of what it used to be. So in order to prioritize the 5G wavelength, they have deprioritized the 4G wavelengths, and it is abundantly slower than it used to be because all these carriers and all these phone companies are trying to get everybody to upgrade to 5G phones, which is dumb because there's not really that many advantages to 5G. It's mostly the same as 4G. It just makes your phone run a little bit hotter. It is technically a little bit faster on paper, but it's nowhere near as fast as they claim it is, which is why if someone's buying a used iPhone today, I would still advise them to get one with 5G. Not because I'm saying you're going to get gigabit speeds or things like that, but I just don't want you to be on a platform that's going to have throttled speeds. Let's see. I think the redesigned Photos app on iOS 18 is better, and I have been loving it. Okay, I've heard mixed things. I've heard some people say that it's worse, but I think it probably just takes some getting used to. I haven't tried it yet, of course, but I will weigh in on it once I do have it. But I'm probably just going to wait for the public release, to be honest. I don't discriminate against Android users. I have an Android friend. I get where you're going with that, Rick. Yesterday, Straight Talk had renewed iPhone SEs from 2022 for $75. You needed 1 month of the plan at $35, but it automatically unlocked in 60 days. So basically $110 for an SE3. That's an amazing deal. How did I not hear about that? Yeah, I would sign up for that carrier and then drop them as soon as possible. When I have true 5G on T-Mobile, it is pretty awesome, but most areas are fake 5G. Yep. Same here. Never really got true 5G. I don't know what that even means anymore, but Vision OS is more important than the folding phone. I agree, but I don't think you have to choose one over the other. I think you can improve Vision OS and still make a folding phone. It would just, for the iPhone line, which is Apple's biggest, most profitable line, and that's what most of the internet wants to talk about, I've tried to make spatial computing content. People just don't care all that much, probably because it's a $3,500 headset. It's just not that exciting yet. But iPhones kind of relate and apply to everybody. So any kind of radical or big change to the iPhone line is a lot more exciting and interesting to people. So That's why I suggested, just for the marketing hype alone, I think Apple should make a folding phone, just so that the iPhones make more headlines instead of just the iPhone 16 is here and it's pretty much the same thing, which happens every year. This September, it's going to be 5 years from the Gen 1 Z Fold, and I still don't think they are worth it. I agree. I don't think they're worth it, but I also don't think it hurts anything. I also probably don't think the regular iPhone 16 and 16 Pro are worth it. You should probably just keep using a 15 or buy a 15 Pro for cheaper once the 16 Pro comes out. So I would argue none of the new stuff is ever really worth it. You're probably better off most of the time buying last year's model. But if Apple did something different, like make a folding iPhone, at least we could say, like, okay, there's nothing really else like this on the market, because existing folding phones don't have iOS and don't have Apple ecosystem perks, and there's no previous generation folding iPhone. So it would be something to talk about. As a tech commentator, it would be exciting and interesting. As an everyday consumer, I'm right there with you. I wouldn't buy one. I wouldn't care. I don't need a folding phone, but I still think Apple could make a good one. Do you prefer your iPhone home screen with depth effect turn on or off? I don't even know. Most of the time my background is blurred out, so I can't even tell. I think it's off. I don't know if I prefer it that way. I use my phone more as a tool than anything. I'm not like one of those ultra customizers where I want everything to be perfect. I just kind of throw things on my home screen. I'm not a very organized person. If you could see my desk, you would agree. I think in 2028, when foldables turn 10 years old, maybe Apple will jump in the market or somewhere around there. Yeah, Apple was not in tablets first. Apple's rarely first to anything. They were definitely not in headsets first. But when they did enter it, they did it right, and they did it well. Who knows? Maybe if they did the software really well, then I could try a folding iPhone and be like, you know what? This is actually kind of handy. Maybe I do want to keep it. But it sounds expensive, which is why I would probably have a hard time justifying it. I'd sell my kidney for a folding iPhone. Wow. How many kidneys you got, man? I know I'm a rare case, but where I live, I consistently get over 600 megabits download on AT&T 5G, which is faster than my Wi-Fi, though I still use Wi-Fi, so my phone isn't burning hot all the time. Yeah, but, that's my problem with 5G is, for what? What do you do on your iPhone that utilizes that speed? I feel like more people would care about their iPhone battery life and not overheating than they would getting over 600 megabits per second. It's such a niche application, in my opinion. There's so few things on an iPhone or any phone really, that would benefit from having internet speed that fast. On a computer, for home internet, I could see the argument. Or a console, it downloads these huge game files every time there's a new Call of Duty update. It's got to download 100 gigs. All right, for that application, getting as much download as possible makes sense. Or if you're live streaming like I am, or downloading huge files to edit videos, that's my application. That's where I'm like, yeah, your home internet is going to be split between all these different devices, so it makes sense to get gigabit speeds, or over 600 megabits, of course, would be ideal. But for just one phone that's mostly used for watching videos, texting, maybe the occasional FaceTime call, 600 is overkill. What do I think about iPad mini? You said that iPhone mini is one of your favorite phones, right? Yeah, the iPad mini is pretty much the only iPad that doesn't have much of an identity crisis. It's great. My friends have them. They love them. They use them. I think iPadOS is well suited for that hardware. It's not suited for the $2,000 iPad Pro hardware, but for note-taking and drawing and some light multitasking, iPad mini is a reasonable price. That's capable, practical. It's just an overall great tablet. I can't say much bad about it aside from I wish it was 120 hertz. A tablet with 60 hertz in 2024 is still kind of depressing, but that's pretty much my only complaint. I can't think of anything else I would want changed with the iPad mini. It's a pretty fantastic device. They'll probably throw a new chip in there one of these days, but that's not really an issue with it, in my opinion. The chip it has is fast enough. I'm not convinced foldables will exist in 5 or 10 years. It's been 6 generations and they're not cracking 1 or 2% market share. The flippables might persist, but not the foldables. Well, like Samsung is kind of shown, and now Google's getting into it as well. 2% market share of a very, very big market is enough to justify its existence. You know, like kind of like Bugattis or sports cars. You know, they don't sell a lot of them, but they don't have to in order to justify it, because when the smartphone market is in the billions, as in billions of people buy smartphones now, getting 2% of that market is actually quite substantial. 2% of 2 billion is, I'm so bad at math, a couple million, right? So it's enough that it's a high price item, probably with thicker margins than a regular phone, that it's worth keeping around. And that's why I think Samsung is still making foldables, even though I'm not that invested in them. I don't see a lot of them, but I do see them occasionally. I do see foldables in the wild. Most of the time, people aren't using them unfolded, but that's not really the point. The point is they did buy them. Most of the time, I see people with foldables, they're using them with the outside display. And it's like, wow, it's almost like you just like it in rectangle mode most of the time. But I probably would have said the same thing, Mike, a few years ago, back when the first Z Fold came out. I said, this is stupid. This is a bad idea. It's just a gimmick. It'll die off. Here we are, years later. What are we at? Like 5 years later, and they're still releasing new ones. They're not the most exciting tech, in my opinion, but they're still releasing them and they're still selling them. So if Samsung can keep them going, and now Google's making them as well, I'm sure the sales won't be great because they're so expensive, but I think Apple, of all companies, could probably justify the price. 5G is good for Fortnite updates. Oh, wait. Hey, in the EU, don't they still get Fortnite? Yoris says, as long as I can watch YouTube videos on my iPhone in 1440p, or at least without lag, then I'm good with whatever internet speed. Yeah, and you don't need that much. I think you can stream 1440p at, like, what, 50 megabits a second is enough? And I feel like most of the time when I'm watching videos on my phone, it's in picture-in-picture, and I'm doing other things too, so the resolution doesn't really need to be 1080p because it's something I have going on in the background. Top Maverick says, I own a blue iMac G3. It no longer works, though. I pushed it on accident, but it's still beautiful to look at. Yeah, I think my dad still has one, but his still works. They're works of art. It's amazing how well some of these Apple products have aged, that's for sure. Let's see. What a rare case. I loved Android until I discovered the superiority of Apple. It's hard to put your finger on exactly what causes it. Oh, Rosenfeld says he's watching on his iPad mini. Foldables are a dead trend. You know, I was critical of foldables too, but I have to admit it's difficult to call them dead when I have seen average everyday consumers use them, and they're still releasing new ones. Google's releasing a new one. Samsung's releasing new ones. So I would agree it's not the most popular trend, but I would hardly call it dead. You know, I would call swappable batteries dead, because that was a trend for a while, but they didn't keep it around. But best Mac for college ideas. Is it worth waiting around a year? Depends on what you're doing in college, but yeah, I don't think you can go wrong with there's some refurbished M2 MacBook Airs I've seen going for pretty cheap. Or who was it? It was either Best Buy or Amazon. Some reseller was selling M2 MacBook Airs for like $800 or something, which I thought was a great deal. Yora says, I would rather have an Apple Ring than an Apple Foldable. Sometimes I want to wear my normal watch, but the Apple Watch is so useful. Yeah, that seems like another kind of up-and-coming trend that Apple might be interested in now that Samsung's doing it. Aura kind of kickstarted it, but Samsung's doing it without the monthly membership. Now, Apple's a lot more into monthly membership, so I wouldn't be surprised if Apple's Ring would have a membership, but it'd probably be cheaper than Samsung's Galaxy Ring. But yeah, there's definitely been a lot of talk about it, about people wanting to wear classy watches, but still wanting something that could do health data, but have a much longer battery life. It's just kind of hard to justify a $400 ring, I guess, but Apple would probably be better at it than Samsung, because There's a lot more brand power with Apple, that's for sure. So I do think there's a market for it. I do think it would be a good product. My only pushback is it would be kind of bizarre for Apple to acknowledge, here's a product you should buy if you don't want to buy the Apple Watch. I feel like Apple would have to kind of always acknowledge, no, Apple Watch is the best. You need an Apple Watch. You want to buy the Apple Watch. I'm kind of more like, a ring would be nice, but the marketing of it would be somewhat challenging. You'd have to kind of phrase it in a way that doesn't make it sound bad against buying an Apple Watch. Like, could we all agree that it would be kind of weird to wear an Apple ring and an Apple Watch at the same time? But that's kind of what Apple executives would have to do. They would kind of have to choose one. I don't know. It probably will depend on how Apple Watch sales perform. Maybe if they see a slip in Apple Watch sales and less people are buying the watch, then they won't feel so bad about offering a ring option. But if the Apple Watch sales continue to hold strong, then they'll probably just say, like, why mess around with a ring? That's going to take more engineering, more research and development, and it could cannibalize sales of our Apple Watch. And in Apple's perfect world, everybody's buying an $800 Apple Watch Ultra and signing up for Apple Fitness Plus, not buying a $400 Apple ring or a $300 Apple ring plus a membership, you know. They need to find a way to make it complementary. That's probably what they're working on. If they make a ring, they want the ring to not cannibalize any Apple Watch sales, because I think there's a very real chance that the ring would be cheaper than a lot of the Apple Watches they sell. And it would kind of eat into some of the advantages of buying an Apple Watch. So it's an interesting theory. I've come around to the idea. I used to not really get why people would want a smart ring, but I've heard a lot of people say, like, yeah, I don't want to wear the Apple Watch, which, you know, I don't blame you either. I do wear a ring myself, but my main reason for getting rid of the Apple Watch was not because of the notifications. It was, I mean, that was part of it, but is because I didn't like having to pack an extra charger every time I went on a trip, and especially this summer, we're traveling a lot. So it's nice to not have another battery to worry about. A ring that I'd have to also charge would not fix that problem. Also, all of that health data I considered very entertainment-focused. It was not very educational. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with data that says, you didn't sleep well last night. Yeah, I know. So what? I don't really care about how many calories I'm burning. I get the general concept of you work out, you're more active, you burn more calories. If you don't go for hikes, if you don't work out, if you don't exercise, then you're burning less calories. I don't think really having the nitty-gritty details of 500 calories burned or 1,000 calories burned really changes my outcome all that much. I lost a lot of weight, and I never paid for a gym membership. I never signed up for Fitness Plus. I never did any of that stuff, and I still found a way to lose 75 pounds, and I didn't really monitor my health data at all. So I think people, and Apple likes it when we do this, they associate health tracking with caring about your health, when in reality, a lot of that health data is kind of useless. It's not that accurate in the first place, and people don't even really utilize it to change much about their lifestyle. They just look at it and say, oh, I ran 2.5 miles, or I walked 5 for 50 minutes or something. And they look at it for fun. They're not really doing anything with that data. And it was, what's his name? Dr. Mike or something was on the Waveform podcast, and he talked about how people use all this health data and said that Apple Watches, for the most part, are just, it's entertainment. It's not really that valuable health data. So I understand if there's specific health applications out there that the Apple Watch truly, genuinely helps you. I'm happy for you if you found a good use case for it. My wife does still use and wear an Apple Watch Series 3, but I don't have any specific health information that the Apple Watch was providing to me. The blood oxygen data was useless. The ECGs were useless. The heart data was useless. So I just figured, you know what? These Apple Watches are, if anything, all the health data and all the closing your activity rings is probably just making me more anxious. Like, oh, I didn't do it, or oh, I got to do this. And the peer pressure / the anxiety that you get if it said something like, oh, your heart rate went up. Yeah, notifying the user that their heart rate doesn't look good. I don't think that's going to lower their heart rate. If anything, telling the user that their heart rate is going up probably just makes it go up even more. And and I was never a watch wearer before the Apple Watch. So I don't know. If a really cool Apple Watch feature comes out and I just feel like I need to have it, then I might go back. But so far, I'm not missing it. And I probably wouldn't be interested in an Apple Ring either. Just another thing to charge. And again, I'm not that interested in health data at this stage in my life. Maybe down the road when I'm old and I'm having more health issues, I'll need to monitor my heart more closely. But I wore an Apple Watch for like almost a decade, and the information was not that valuable. I still wish Apple made an all-in-one app like Garmin Connect for data presentation. Well, just, it's fitness, right? The fitness app is pretty close to that, right? Updating the Ring year over year will be tougher since there isn't a software and a screen to use as an upgrade. Yeah, there's no screen on the Ring typically, so it'd probably be a firmware update, kind of like how your AirPods get updated. But yeah, if your battery lasts 7 days on a charge, then even with 50% degradation, you could get the Ring to last, 2-3 days on a charge. So it probably isn't a great financial model for Apple. They can't find a way to improve upon it and improve the sales of it year over year. But you could argue it's the same thing with the AirTag. You could argue it's just another accessory to keep people kind of locked down within the ecosystem. If there's a Ring and it has a bunch of features that only work with the iPhone, but maybe the EU is preventing that from happening. I just think it's a nice watch and iPhone pinger. I lose my phone daily. I will admit there are some times where I'm looking for my phone and I'm like, oh man, I can't ping it anymore. But to me, that's not worth having a whole watch to charge and worry about. A lot of the stuff is split into the health app and it isn't the easiest thing to navigate. That's true. There's the health app and the fitness app, which is kind of a redundant. I wouldn't be surprised if one of these years they find a way to merge those two. There should definitely be a way to merge the two. I agree. But again, in my opinion, it's kind of a lot of work solving a problem that shouldn't really exist. I don't think there's that many people that need to count how many steps they've done, how many calories they've burned, how many flights of stairs they've climbed, and their heart rate, and their blood oxygen levels. It's like, usually people with health issues need to pay attention to 1 or 2 of those things. Rarely do they need all 10 of those and your sleep tracking data. A doctor probably isn't even going to utilize that data or take that data with much accuracy. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there are doctors out there that are like, wear an Apple Watch and give me a complete breakdown on all of your health data at the end of the week, and I'll take all of this data into consideration. But I feel like it's not that often. I feel like it's kind of a rare use case. But I don't look at the health app or the fitness app. But here I am, chugging along. You can ping your phone with Find My on your Macs. Well, yeah, I know, but I'm rarely in a place if I lose my phone. It's usually not when I'm near my Mac. My watch told me that my heart rate was 175 while walking. Jeez. Introducing the Apple Wellness app merges health, fitness, and journal. I still don't really get the journal app, but I don't know what it's for, but I'm still mad it's not on the iPad. Come on, Apple. I haven't tried the Garmin Connect app, though. Is it good? Do people like that one? Genuinely curious. If my legs functioned, I'd track my steps. Fair enough. That's kind of a helpful step in the development. Sorry. I only made that bad joke because James makes a lot of those kinds of jokes. I have an Apple Watch SE2 and waiting for the Series 10. I think the Series 10 is mainly just going to be bigger and make you buy new watch bands. That's what I'm gathering from it right now. There's not much talk about it getting any new health sensors. It still doesn't sound like they've figured out the blood oxygen patent issue with Massimo. And there's not going to be like a camera. There's not much talk about it getting a faster chip. Or it probably won't get any Apple Intelligence features. So if you just want a bigger watch, I guess get excited for the Apple Watch 10. That's why I bring my Mac everywhere. Oh, wow. My heart rate has been high for years, resting is 90s. See, if you have a higher heart rate, I can understand why you'd want to monitor it. But also, if it's been that way for years, what is the watch really doing? That's just how I feel about it. I'm not trying to say no one else should wear it, but I have seen more than one person in my life, that's not counting me, that bought the Apple Watch, used it for several years, but they got tired of all the notifications. They got tired of the anxiety that was being created, and they just felt a little too connected, and they felt better after they got rid of the Apple Watch and just started using the iPhone as, okay, if I need to be connected, I'll grab my phone. But if I don't want to be connected, I feel comfortable just leaving the phone behind. It's nice to just have one thing to charge instead of two when you go to bed. When you're packing or traveling, having to worry about, oh, I got to charge this, I got to charge that. Forgot about the Massimo stuff. Blood oxygen still looking like it's going to be removed. Well, it's been removed. Even if you buy a Series 9 or an Apple Watch Ultra, those don't have blood oxygen today. If you bought one before the patent, you still get to keep it. But after that lawsuit settlement, I forget what day it was. It was somewhere in February or January. They officially ended they settled and said that all new Apple Watches can't have that blood oxygen feature. So there's no signs that they've found a way to fix that, which means that the Apple Watch 10 probably won't have it either. Remind me of how out of shape I am. That's what it does. Yeah, and see, I didn't need that. My sweating and heavy breathing does that for me. Smaller bezels always welcome. One day I will upgrade for my Series 6 and enjoy bezel reductions over the years. Yeah, from the leaked renders I saw, the Apple Watch 10 I don't think has thinner bezels. I think it's just bigger. The physical chassis is just overall larger. It's probably the same size bezel all the way around, so it appears like the screen has thinner bezels, but just picture a Series 7 larger. Me, I had that. My Apple Watch was just a bit too annoying to use and have like two devices to take care of. Switch to a normal analog watch and just the phone. There is probably something to that. People like analog watches because they don't have to charge them. They don't have to pair them, and they don't worry about the notifications. It's like some people just want to watch to tell time, which I think is totally fair. And I think Apple should be open to that in the same way that they advertise older cars in their events sometimes that have CarPlay built into them. It's like, okay, Apple, that's not an EV, and an EV would be better for the environment, but they have some respect for legacy design and classic, iconic things and record players or something like that. I don't know. Apple has an appreciation for older tech occasionally, so I think they could release a ring and have an Apple employee at the event wear the ring and have a classic watch on. I don't think it'd be the end of the world. Like, some people would probably be like, an Apple employee is not using an Apple Watch? Oh my god. But I think it'd be like, it's not for everybody. Whatever. The same way some people still use film cameras instead of taking a picture on an iPhone. Even Apple still uses professional cameras occasionally. Like, yes, the iPad event was all shot on iPhone, but the Crushed ad, where they smush everything together, that was not shot on iPhone. And the latest Underdogs movie that Apple released, where they have Vision Pro and everything about the out-of-office people. It's a recurring series about Apple products helping underdogs. Those aren't shot on iPhone. So if someone wants to use a fancier camera, someone wants to use a classy luxury watch but still wants all the fitness data, yeah, I'm with y'all. I think Apple should do it. I'm just trying to predict why. They're probably having the conversations internally, and I'm trying to think, why wouldn't they? What's the issue? What's the holdup? And my guess is it has something to do with too much product overlap with the Apple Watch. The AirTags don't really hurt the sales of anything else, right? AirTags just make the Find My network really cool, helps bring your keys and wallet into the Apple ecosystem. It's nice, it's handy, it makes you glad you have an iPhone, but it really doesn't steal sales away from any other Apple product. Whereas I do think an Apple Ring would kind of deter people from getting an Apple Watch, potentially. The cast for the Underdog series don't look like real people. What? What does that mean? It's AI generated? Will it look better with peripherals / cords or not? I would say it'd look better without cords, but I don't know. I'd have to see it. But I hope your display item looks nice, Maverick. I thoroughly enjoy my analog Citizen watch, but also find my Apple Watch useful. Yeah, there you go. I think there's a good chance Apple should consider that a lot of people might just not buy an Apple Watch or stop using their Apple Watch in favor of using an analog watch, and if you don't release the ring, you're getting nothing out of those customers. Whereas if you do release the Ring, you'll get something. I don't know what they want to charge for it, but it's interesting to see Samsung go without a membership and Apple love memberships so much. They probably want to find a way to, like, how could we bring value to the membership, but also not make the Ring e-waste without one. My best bet would be kind of how, Samsung went kind of expensive without a membership. I think Apple should consider doing the opposite, where the Apple Ring is actually really cheap because you can't really buy it outright, per se. Like, you have to subscribe to a membership. Maybe it's just Apple Fitness Plus, and that's it. When you subscribe to Apple Fitness Plus, the Ring is either included or you only have to spend $50 to get the Ring, and then the Ring works as long as you have Fitness Plus, and they could even lock it down. So it's like you have to have the membership for 6 months. If you cancel the membership, then you get a $300 charge for not paying off the Ring or something. Would love to hear Randy and Mike's opinion on the Ring. I thought we talked about it on a podcast not long ago, but I gotta actually start recording the podcast just about right now. So I'll probably sign it off here. Hello from Bali. Sorry, Brandon, you tuned in at the very end. What other products do you think Apple could do in the wearable department? Glasses, obviously. I know that's kind of a similar thing with the Vision Pro, but similar to the Meta Ray-Ban partnership, there's a lot of people that seem to like wearing those sunglasses so that they can do point-of-view video recording, and I feel like Apple could probably do that pretty well. They're a good fashionable brand, so they could probably make some glasses that just take some point-of-view pictures and videos, and they just show up automatically on your iPhone. Anyway, I'll wrap it up there. Thank you all for tuning in, and please feel free to ask about any other topics you want covered more in depth on the channel. Thank you all for watching. Hope you have an excellent rest of your day. Bye-bye.